Most people don't find a job. They accept one. They scroll through listings, chase salaries, and settle for titles that sound impressive but feel hollow. And then they wonder why Monday feels heavy and Friday feels like freedom. But the truth is, the job isn't the problem. The missing link is why you're doing it. The why isn't a motivational slogan. It's a direction finder. It tells you what kind of work gives you energy instead of taking it away. If you're looking for a job right now, the clock is ticking. Not because opportunities are scarce, but because clarity is. You can't attract what fits you if you don't know what drives you. The world doesn't pay you for what you do. It pays you for what you believe about what you do. When you start your job search with your why, you stop chasing jobs that look good and start finding the one that feels right. Most people grow up believing that finding a job is about choosing a title, an industry, or a salary bracket. They're told to pick something secure, something that makes sense on paper. But when a man or woman chooses a job without direction, they end up working hard for things that never feel like progress. The truth is, you don't choose a job. You choose a direction. A job is only one expression of where you're heading, not the destination itself. When you understand that, every decision you make starts to align with something deeper than employment. It aligns with identity. Men often define themselves by what they do rather than why they do it. Their worth becomes measured by position, not purpose. That's why so many chase promotions but still feel empty, or switch jobs and still carry the same dissatisfaction. Women, on the other hand, often carry a stronger sense of intuition about direction. They feel when something doesn't align. Yet even they can be pressured by expectations to pick stability over significance. Both end up trading authenticity for approval, and both silently ask the same question. Is this really what I meant to do? When direction replaces definition, the answer becomes clear. You don't have to search for meaning in work that already has it built in. Direction comes from your why. It's not about what you're capable of doing. It's about what you are meant to contribute. A man who knows his why doesn't need every door to open. He only needs the right one. His energy stops scattering across opportunities and starts concentrating on what fulfills him. A woman who lives by her why stops trying to prove she can do everything. She starts choosing what resonates with her values. The job becomes less about fitting into a system and more about expressing something within. When direction leads, career choices stop being random. They become intentional. Without a clear why, every opportunity looks like a possibility. That's how people end up busy but not fulfilled, successful but not satisfied. They keep moving, but in no particular direction. It's like driving with a full tank but no map. You'll move far, but not forward. A job chosen without direction might give comfort, but never meaning. Men are especially prone to mistaking motion for progress. They grind harder when clarity is missing, believing effort alone can compensate for emptiness. Women often sense that disconnection sooner. They feel it in the subtle fatigue that comes from working against their own purpose. When direction guides your career, rejection no longer feels personal. It feels informative. Every no simply narrows the path to the right yes. The process becomes less about finding where you fit and more about discovering where you belong. That's the difference between chasing work and creating impact. Men powerful not because they're achieving, but because they're aligning. Women begin to feel grounded not because they're succeeding, but because they're expressing truth through their work. And when both operate from that space, the job becomes more than a paycheck. It becomes proof of purpose in motion. Money keeps you alive, but meaning keeps you awake. The paycheck feeds you. It covers the bills, buys the groceries, and gives the illusion of stability. But the why fuels you. It gives breath to your effort and turns repetition into purpose. Too many men and women confuse earning with living. They chase the next raise as if it will finally make the weight of emptiness lighter. But there's a difference between being sustained and being fulfilled. You can be financially comfortable and still feel emotionally bankrupt when your work lacks meaning. Men are especially vulnerable to this trap because they often tie their worth to what they provide. The paycheck becomes proof of value and work becomes a scoreboard. But no amount of money replaces the quiet voice that asks, does this even matter to me? A man can have financial success yet feel invisible to himself. He may not say it out loud, but he feels it every time he comes home a job that doesn't align with who he is. Women, too, wrestle with this tension, especially when their contribution is undervalued or unseen. They can earn well and still feel unseen because what they're doing doesn't reflect what they believe in. The why changes the way you show up to work. When you're fueled by meaning, energy becomes renewable. Challenges don't break you, they refine you. You stop working for the weekend because your fulfillment isn't delayed to 2 days of freedom. It's woven into what you do daily. A man who knows his why doesn't just chase income, he builds impact. He understands that money can fill a bank account, but only purpose can fill a soul. A woman who works from her why doesn't compete for validation. She contributes from conviction. Her energy attracts trust, not because she tries harder, but because she believes deeper. Without a why, the grind becomes a loop. You wake up, work, earn, spend, repeat. And somewhere in that rhythm, you lose the sense of why you began working in the first place. The paycheck buys comfort, but it can't buy clarity. Men burn out faster when they ignore this because their instinct is to push harder, to fix the void with more effort. But effort without meaning only amplifies exhaustion. Women often feel this differently. They sense the emotional cost of staying in a role that feeds their wallet but starves their spirit. Both end up running on empty, confusing motion with momentum. When the why fuels you, money stops being the motivator and becomes the byproduct. Work turns from something you have to do into something you get to do. Men begin to measure success not by what they earn, but by what they build that outlives them. Women begin to measure progress not by recognition, but by resonance, by how deeply their work aligns with what they care about. The paycheck may feed the body, but only the why can feed the fire that keeps you going long after the task is done. Credentials open doors, but clarity decides which ones you should walk through. Most people spend their lives collecting qualifications, polishing resumes, stacking achievements, believing that the more they have, the more valuable they become. But value doesn't come from paper. It comes from purpose. Clarity beats credentials every time, because when you know who you are and why you do what you do, your direction becomes magnetic. People trust clarity more than competence. They can feel when you stand for something, and they follow not because of your title, but because of your conviction. Men are taught to measure themselves by their accomplishments. Degrees, titles, and promotions become badges of validation. Yet many of them, even after earning everything they thought they wanted, feel lost. They have the credentials but lack the compass. The world taught them how to succeed, but not why. Without clarity, credentials become armor, something to hide behind rather than something to build from. Women, on the other hand, often struggle with the opposite problem. Many know intuitively what drives them, but they hesitate to claim it until they feel qualified. They hold back their clarity until it's certified, not realizing that conviction itself is a form of expertise. Clarity gives confidence a foundation. When a man speaks from clarity, his words carry weight not because he's loud, but because he's sure. He doesn't need to prove, he needs to express. The same is true for a woman who leads with understanding rather than approval. Her clarity cuts through noise and draws others toward her vision. Credentials can tell people what you've done, but clarity shows them who you are. And in a world overwhelmed with information, authenticity is the rarest form of intelligence. The danger of relying on credentials alone is that they create a false sense of direction. You might be qualified for something that doesn't fulfill you. You might be excellent at work that drains your spirit. Men often chase the next qualification, thinking it will bring clarity, but it only adds more layers of confusion. They end up preparing for roles they don't even want because they've never stopped to ask what truly matters to them. Women often feel the emotional cost of this imbalance. They sense when achievement doesn't equal alignment. The dissonance between what they do and why they do it starts to echo louder with every accomplishment. Clarity transforms how opportunity feels. When you're clear, rejection doesn't discourage you, it redirects you. Every door simply confirms the path that isn't yours. Men begin to understand that leadership isn't about being the most qualified. It's about being the most aligned. Women realize that influence isn't earned through credentials. It's amplified through conviction. The job, the position, the title, those are outcomes. Clarity is the cause. And when you lead with clarity, you no longer chase recognition. You attract it, because people don't follow what you've achieved. They follow what you believe. Fulfillment begins where feeling starts. Too many people try to think their way into meaning, analyzing, planning, and rationalizing their career decisions, as if logic alone could create purpose. But work that doesn't move you emotionally will never fulfill you spiritually. If you can't feel it, you can't fulfill it. The mind can convince you that something makes sense, but only the heart can confirm that it matters. The people who thrive in their work aren't necessarily the smartest. They're the most connected to what they feel when they do it. Men are conditioned to suppress feeling in the pursuit of performance. They're told to be practical, to be strong, to choose stability over passion. And so they often silence the very emotions that could guide them toward fulfillment. They work hard, hit targets, and collect rewards that should feel good, but don't. That emptiness isn't failure, it's feedback. It's the signal that something essential is missing connection. Women, on the other hand, often sense that misalignment much sooner. They feel it in their energy, in their conversations, in their daily rhythm. Yet even they can be pressured to ignore intuition, to conform, to do what's expected, rather than what's felt. Feeling is not weakness. It's direction. It tells you when something resonates and when something repels you. A man who denies disconnects from his compass. He may still move forward, but without knowing why he's going. His success feels accidental, not intentional. A woman who listens to her feelings, however, moves with precision. Her intuition becomes her greatest strategic tool, allowing her to see possibilities that others overlook. When feeling leads, fulfillment follows, because the heart doesn't chase validation. It recognizes alignment. The danger of ignoring feeling is that it numbs passion over time. Men often mistake numbness for discipline. They believe consistency means suppressing emotion. But without emotion, consistency turns into mechanical repetition. You can't pour yourself into something you don't feel connected to. Women often carry the emotional load of this imbalance. They give, nurture, and invest in work that doesn't give anything back. Over time, they feel depleted, not because they lack ability, but because they're running on obligation instead of inspiration. Both end up in the same place, tired from effort, empty from disconnection. Feeling doesn't make the path easier. It makes it real. When you feel something deeply about your work, it anchors you through uncertainty. Men begin to rediscover their strength, not through control, but through connection, through allowing themselves to care again. Women begin to reclaim their confidence by trusting that emotion is not interference, it's intelligence. The people who make the greatest impact aren't those who can explain what they do best. They're the ones who can feel it in every fiber of their being. Because fulfillment isn't found in doing more. It's found in doing what moves you. Skills may get you noticed, but belief makes you unforgettable. Most people enter the job market thinking they need to sell what they can do. They perfect resumes, memorize interviews, and polish their technical strengths until they sound impressive enough to earn a position. But here's the truth. Skills describe what you've done. Belief defines why it matters. You don't inspire anyone by listing what you can perform. You inspire them by standing for what you believe in. A job is not just an exchange of labor for pay. It's an alignment between what a person believes and what an organization represents. When belief leads, skills follow with conviction. Men often feel pressured to compete through credentials, to prove they can do more, know more, and deliver more. They see career growth as a scoreboard where competence is currency. But this mindset turns them into sellers of ability rather than carriers of purpose. They speak about their experience with pride, but forget to communicate what drives that experience. And that's why so many feel unseen despite their qualifications, because they've sold their skills but never shared their belief. Women, on the other hand, often downplay their capabilities, assuming belief must come second to proof. They wait until they feel ready, not realizing that belief is what makes readiness possible in the first place. Belief gives meaning to ability. It's the emotional signature behind every action, the reason someone should choose you beyond what you can perform. A man who communicates belief shows courage, not because he has all the answers, but because he has something worth standing for. A woman who expresses belief turns confidence into connection. People don't follow skills, they follow conviction. Skills are replaceable, belief is rare. It's what makes your presence feel authentic and your message resonate long after the conversation ends. When you lead with belief, your communication changes. You stop trying to impress and start trying to express. Interviews turn from rehearsed performances into real conversations. You stop asking, what do they want to hear? And start saying, this is what I stand for. Men begin to feel the freedom of being known for who they are, not just what they can do. They attract opportunities that align with their values instead of chasing ones that validate their ego. Women begin to feel the strength of speaking from authenticity, no longer needing to over-explain their worth, because it's visible in their conviction. The irony is that belief amplifies skill. When you work from conviction, you're naturally, because you're emotionally invested in the outcome. You pay more attention, care more deeply, and perform with greater purpose. A man with average skill but strong belief can outperform a man with exceptional skill and no direction, because belief sustains effort long after talent fades. A woman who works from belief radiates confidence that no RA summa can replicate. She becomes magnetic, not by trying to prove herself, but by embodying what she believes in. Skills might earn attention, but belief earns trust, and trust is what turns opportunity into impact. The search for the right job is often misunderstood as hunt for something external, something out there waiting to be discovered through endless scrolling, applying, and hoping. But the truth is, the right job doesn't find you. It recognizes you. It sees alignment in what you believe, not just what you can do. It connects with your purpose, not just your profile. Most people spend years trying to get noticed when what they should be doing is becoming recognizable for what they stand for. Recognition isn't about being seen by everyone. It's about being known for something that matters deeply to you. Men often approach job searching like competition. They prepare to outperform, outtalk, and outprove others, believing that securing a role means winning a battle. They gather credentials and craft presentations that highlight competence, yet deep down, many feel disconnected from the very work they're chasing. They're noticed for their effort, but not recognized for their essence. That's because recognition isn't about effort. It's about alignment. Women, on the other hand, often feel the weight of invisibility, even when they're capable and prepared. They question whether they're enough, not realizing that what truly draws the right job isn't perfection. It's authenticity. The right job doesn't need you to perform. It needs you to resonate. Resonance happens when what you value mirrors what the organization believes in. It's that unspoken harmony between personal purpose and professional culture. A man who knows his why will not accept every opportunity that comes his way. He filters it through conviction. He doesn't ask, is this the best offer? But rather, does this align with who I am? That shift in thinking is what makes him magnetic to roles that fit his identity. A woman guided by her why doesn't chase validation through job titles. She seeks environments that nurture her growth, that see her not as a function, but as a force. When belief precedes application, recognition becomes inevitable. The danger in chasing jobs is that it makes you mold yourself to every opportunity. Men tend to adapt aggressively, changing language, demeanor, even principles, to fit into roles that may never fit them. They confuse flexibility with compromise and end up exhausted from constant reinvention. Women often do the same, but in a quieter way, downplaying their strengths to seem agreeable or adaptable. Both end up losing the clarity that makes them unique. But the right job doesn't require you to shrink or stretch unnaturally. It meets you where your authenticity is strongest. It doesn't ask you to prove who you are. It simply recognizes it. When you operate from clarity, your energy changes. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop speaking from desperation and start communicating from conviction. Men who once relied on credentials start leaning on character. They learn that authenticity outlasts achievements, and belief speaks louder than R.A. Soma ever could. Women who once hesitated to take up space begin to realize that being fully themselves is the most professional act of all. The right job, the right team, the right mission. They don't appear by chance, they reveal themselves when you stand firm in who you are. Recognition happens when purpose meets readiness. The man who understands his why becomes recognizable because his actions are consistent with his beliefs. He carries a quiet confidence that says, I know where I belong. The woman who leads with purpose doesn't need to demand space. Her presence creates it. The right job doesn't find you wandering. It finds you grounded. It doesn't respond to your qualifications alone. It responds to your clarity, your conviction, and your courage to be known for something real. Because when you build your career around your why, the job doesn't have to search for you. It already knows your name.